So here we go. In order to have change, most of the individuals in the organizations behind that change, as perhaps exemplified by the picture of the individual that's on my screen, Donald Trump, have three common characteristics. And those characteristics fuel the 5 changes that we're about to talk to tonight. Every individual that I know of and every person faced with any kind of challenge, the way that we often face accessibility from many different facets and angles, are risk takers. Whether it's technological risk, whether it's implementation of standards, whether it is involved in some aspect of legal precedent, or quite frankly, an individual with a disability every day faces challenges, and that person often is a risk taker. They're willing to rise to the challenge and absorb change when change may not always benefit them right out of the box, but have enough vision to appreciate that taking a chance and taking a risk, trying out new technologies and getting involved is a huge aspect of being a part of the accessibility world. I often find too that most individuals in our space, in our professional space particularly, are contentious by nature. Why? Well, you know, for all intents and purposes, we're involved in a civil rights environment. We're always fighting either in behalf of or as an individual with a disability. And so that means we need to argue. We need to argue on behalf of individuals with disabilities. We need to argue on behalf of professionals who are trying to establish, say, for example, programs within their organizations and within their corporations. And that requires that you be a fighter, that you be contentious, that you be willing to argue and to stand pat on the platform in which we all believe. I know myself, I'm often described as a contentious person. Anyone that works with me will vouch for that. Can't see if any of them are there. Yeah, there's a couple of us that are there, so feel free to clap or give me a thumbs up on my aspect of being contentious. But it is a vital characteristic as we talk about some of the changes that we're going to look at. And finally, there's no doubt of all the characteristics that we discuss. It's very clear that passion is instrumental, is close to our hearts, is the very soapbox for which almost every one of us lives and breathes. It amazes me how often I've seen individuals over the years, and I have been around now as much as I hate to admit it, some 30 years. I think I started in the accessibility field right around 1983, 84. And it absolutely amazes me the passion that people have to make things right, to focus on users, to get involved, to literally string themselves out across many platforms and many objectives because of their love and their passion. It's a characteristic I find intrinsic to everyone that works at TPG and certainly all of my colleagues in the field. So those 3 characteristics are what fuel the 5 changes that I'm about to talk about. Being risk takers, being contentious, fighting for what's right, what we know is right, and having a passion, having a think accessibility mindset 24/7. So change number 1, AUX or accessible user experience is what I believe will be the new accessibility, or A11Y, just using some of our quick acronyms that we've come to know. Over the years, when you really think about it, it's amazing how many advances that we've made in things like accessible coding at the HTML level, at the JavaScript level. ARIA is a great example. We've done a phenomenal, have achieved phenomenal areas of compliance just from that level. We've done a good job in many aspects of validation, whether it's in the deliverance of services and tools, or quality assurance from that standpoint. We've learned how to create standards and compliance standards, and we've kind of nested all of this in with training, and all of these things we've done a great job with, just in terms of accessibility as a whole, particularly in the area of ICT, information and communication technology. But the area that I believe that we are seeing grow, and certainly one that needs, frankly, maturity, is user experience, and in this case, accessible user experience. In the again, in the picture, the image of the slide that I have on the screen right here, it's a booth that was set up by Elle Waters and Carl Gross in 2013, last year's CSUN. And it's a takeoff on the old Linus and Snoopy cartoon, where they had the Doctor is in kind of area there that you could go to and visit, get some help. What this says, though, is exactly what accessible user experience is about. It's about helping people, because ultimately that's what accessibility is all about. It is about understanding users. It's about usability. It's about the development of personas, I think, that have been exemplified again by individuals like Whitney Quisenberry and our own Sarah Horton, David Sloan, Elle herself. Carl has been involved in this. Derek Featherstone. There's just a whole a bunch of people now who have really helped to raise the awareness around user experience. We can get the code right. We can go out and we can validate and help people understand where they need to make enhancements to improve the ICT, so to speak. But the key to accessibility is an accessible user experience. Without it, anything we create, anything that we develop, anything that we design, really, and for all practical purposes, is for naught. We need to focus on users. We need to understand how users with disabilities across the board use and interact with an interface, with software, with the technology. And frankly, over the years, I think I could say with good confidence that many of the things that have been developed in behalf of individuals with disabilities really and truly have not focused on users and how users with disabilities interact with those systems. And so this is going to be the new charge. It's something, again, TPG has really focused on, again, being led by Sarah and David. Whitney Quisenberry, in my own eyes, has kind of led the charge over the last 2 or 3 years. Usability has been something that I've been talking about since the 80s, but now's the time for it to become the new accessibility. So we're going to focus on user experience. You're going to hear a lot more about it. You're going to see it. You're going to see exemplars of it. You will see a lot more user testing that involves people with disabilities, and you will see standards, WCAG standards, the new Section 508 standards, standards that have been developed in Australia and in Europe. All will be characterized by user experience. So that, from my standpoint, is significant change number one. Accessible user experience will be the new accessibility. By the way, Carl, I'm not sure how we're handling questions here, so you want to give me some guidelines along those lines if folks want to ask them or comments during the session. You want me to wait until after the session?
Well, that's up to you. We have a Q&A pod. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing any questions, so that's good or bad. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to type a question in the Q&A pod, and then I can interrupt you and get you to answer it then, or if you'd rather wait, that's up to you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so change number 2. The time has come for Agile Standards. We want standards now. We don't want to wait a decade for them to come. Again, this is not meant to accuse or find fault with, but the fact of the matter is one of the main reasons why our field is so far behind uh, in, uh, in terms of standards and development, from so far behind mainstream technology, is because our own standards environment can't keep up with and has not kept up with the technology standards that the rest of the world is being driven by. Never mind the technology in and of itself. We have found, and I'm sure many of you have experienced, the process of developing standards is slow, often painful. Um, it can be contentious, but that's okay because generally speaking, usually when you're fighting for a standard, more often than not, you're fighting for the right thing at that particular time. But waiting, as we have, Carl mentioned earlier on that in one case, the new Section 508 standards, they were delivered to the Access Board back in 2008. Here we are in 2014, some 6 years later, and of course we had 2 years of pretty close to 2 years. I think it was actually 19 months of just pulling those together. The 40 or so folks that were involved in that particular the TEITAC advisory committee. So you're talking about nearly 8 years. It looks like, thankfully, we're going to see those Section 508 standards out sometime this year. But to wait that long, it's amazing to me how many new technologies are in place. Even the social network environments were infants at best at the time that we handed these things off back in 2008. Things on the mobile platform, the mobile front, have regressed. Things in the telecommunications environment have progressed. Things in the software environment have progressed far beyond even what we tried to do in terms of principles and design and standards back then when we thought we were going to try and stay ahead of it. I've heard some interesting comments related to the WCAG standards, that they are kind of going with kind of an agile mindset, rolling standards where standards will be written, or guidelines actually, will be written and approved at a faster pace. We're not trying to hurry for the sake of hurrying, but we need to keep up with technology. One of the things that I know myself that I've been encouraging folks, many of our clients, likely you're doing the same thing, or as an organization you're thinking about it. If you wait for the standards, uh, you're going to be that much farther behind in the long run. We pretty much know how things are going to play out. We know some of the bottom line principles. If you look, for example, at the standards, there are things like the functional performance criteria, which in a sense uh, are themselves principles. They say that, in short, in order for a technology to be usable and accessible to an individual with a disability, it must be usable by a screen reader user. It must be usable by a screen magnifier user. It must be usable by an individual who has fine motor control disabilities. It must be usable and accessible to a person with cognition disabilities. So if we treat things like the functional performance criteria, or in the WCAG standards, you look at the principles of the poor aspects. If you look at those, you're going to be able to build and deliver a much more usable, a much more accessible experience, rather than waiting for the nitty-gritty to be worked out by the various standards committees, or even the guideline committees, or the working groups and task force all over the world. We're trying, again, as I said, trying to do the best that they can, but they are not meeting the demand of technology as technology goes at breakneck and quote-unquote internet speeds. If we continue to lag behind, then our technology, our adaptive standards themselves, and our design criteria will always lag behind next generation and emerging technology. So rather than wait, I like to just go by the the old Nike creed of just do it. Most of you are experts, most of you are familiar with the standards, and you know what needs to be done in order to achieve, again, a usable and accessible experience. Don't wait. Do it now. Change 3. I got an error on my slide. It looked good before. It's not looking so good right now. That's supposed to say the next user interface, voice I/O. I think as we start to look at the maturity of user interfaces and where things have been and where they are going, it seems quite clear that we're moving closer and closer to a voice I/O interface and user interface, dependent interface. Right now, we're still in the throes of what we've been experiencing and playing with over the last few years, the gesture, the haptics, the touch paradigm and user interface. But already these things are becoming obsolete in terms of where things are going in the labs. Certainly organizations and companies like Dragon have made huge advancements in the voice I/O interface, speech and voice recognition. So I think we're going to see a lot more in terms of voice interface, voice and speech interactions, and certainly better clarity in terms of voice recognition. It wouldn't surprise me if these very changes and this move to a voice I/O interface as a complete paradigm shift could in fact replace common ATs like screen readers, to a certain degree parts and portions of screen magnifiers. But in and of itself, of a voice I/O dependent paradigm and user interface will also present challenges for other disabilities. Certainly we've got to be, we're talking and focusing about inclusion and on inclusion of individuals with disabilities. So what we want to do is not make the mistakes that we've made in the past, especially at the app and OS level, where we, for example, create an app that is strictly voice I/O, because then we lock out individuals with disabilities, for example, those deaf and hard of hearing. We potentially lock out individuals with any kind of speech or motor disability, where voice recognition right now is still a work in progress, especially in terms of being able to deal with linguistics and listening to see and to hear things with clarity. These are areas that again are in the labs and are being worked on. But it would not surprise me to see, and I really do truly believe that slowly but surely we are headed there, And I would predict that in the next 5 years, we will see voice IO systems. Um, we already know that they're being embedded even in the black boxes of the cable companies. So using those systems, using the technologies, hardware and software along with them, this is going to be the new paradigm, and this will become, frankly speaking, I think the new challenge for us.
So far, so good, Mike. So far, so good. No questions that I can tell. So yeah, has anybody have any questions? Now, Mike, what would you consider the necessary teeth? I mean, what do you think would be a appropriate moderator or motivator? great. And that's the kind of story I think people want to hear because it helps make that argument much more solid. You know, you get these arguments sometimes. I know you've gotten them. I'm sure everybody on the list here has gotten them. And that is, you know, this question that people ask: well, how many blind people do we really have using our site? And first off, that's a misunderstanding of accessibility, but also your approach was to actually give a great example of the actual monetary loss that they would have by not having an accessible site and put that in terms that they can understand, you know, because that's aiming at their goal. Does anybody have any questions for Mike? Take that as a no. So, Mike, I just want to thank you personally for hosting this event and for doing the work to help me get this thing done and really to help organize everything. So next up, we're going to have Ted Drake talking about wearability. I'm really excited about that presentation. So that's going to start in 7 minutes. We'll let Mike go, and we'll do a little bit of prep work for Ted, and we'll see you in a few minutes.